session will be about a concept called dictionary. So what is a dictionary? So a dictionary is nothing but, just as the name suggests, a dictionary in real time. When you use a dictionary, is nothing but a book which has got a word as well as its meanings. So when I consider an English dictionary, it's going to have a word and a meaning along with it. So similar to that, when I say in a dictionary, if I refer apple, it's going to be the meaning with it is a fruit. So similarly in your project, what happens is similar to the concept of a dictionary book that is available, we have a concept called dictionary in UiPath. So basically what it does is whenever you are going to have values that will remain unchanged in your project or certain common values that is available. For example, if you're you are scheduling a counter, so if you're going to have a counter which needs to be incremented inside your project dynamically, the start value of the counter would remain the same whenever you start and run the project. So basically the counter will start with either a 1 value or a 2 value, which is going to be the same how many ever number of times you're going to run the project. So for example, if you're taking a log file location, so a log file folder location as well throughout your project is going to be remaining the same. So these kind of values that remains the same inside the project, we term it as, or we group it as under a collection object called dictionary. So a dictionary is nothing but it is a part of the collection object. So under collections we have arrays, list and dictionary. So what will dictionary do is similar to what the English dictionary does or similar to what the dictionary book does. The dictionary here is going to have a key and a value. So we call this technically as a T key and a T value. So what does a dictionary do here? So what we do is all the common information that we have, for example, a log file location, or we have a maximum retry number, or you have a counter variable. So, a retry number is going to give you how many times the application is going to retry in case, it encounters any issue. The counter is going to be a normal default value, which you might giving it in the variable panel. So instead of that, you would bring it out and you would set it as, inside a config file. So so these kind of information that remains unchanged, you're going to put it or you're going to group it inside a particular file. So this kind of a file is called a config file. So a config file will be maintained at a project level. So most of the cases there will be one config file, and the config file can be either in any of the format. It could be a Excel file, it could be a XML file or a JSON file, or even a notepad file or a CSV file. So it depends on your project requirement as to what kind of file you are using inside your project. In most of the scenarios, it will be a XLS x.config file. So this is a typical example of a config file that you might be having in your project requirement folder. So basically I've shown a sample config file which is in the format of .xml and Excel format. So normally what I was telling before was you would have all the information related to your project pertaining to all the standard values that you might be having, which might not change during initialization. So those kind of parameters are taken out of your project and are maintained inside your config file. So this is a simple version of the config file that you might be dealing with. So here both the config files in different formats have the same information, but if you see the username and the value of the username in the first one is in a XML format. So the username is the key, and the customer abc@gmail.com is the information that you're going to actually use as a username. So similar to that, when you're getting into the config format, it is again having the same amount of information. So if you see the username, the value is going to be the customer abc@gmail.com. So this is a simple sample config that you will be using in our program. So basically, what does a config file do? The config file will be, grouping all the values that will be available. So for example, as I said, a log file folder and the log file folder location would be there. So every time, your UiPath program needs to come back and refer to the log file folder, it would be picking up the folder location from the Excel file that is available, or it will be looking at the config file that is available. So in order to achieve this concept, we do it using a dictionary concept. Okay, so what will a dictionary do end of the day is it will fetch the values from what is the source folder, what is the source config file you have. So it will be fetching the value from that particular file, and once it is fetched, be it a XLS file or be it an XML file or any kind of file, so it will fetch the value and it will save inside the structure called dictionary. So it will save inside its particular structure, and then whatever you're saving is going to be termed as key and a value. So for example, if your Excel file has a key of say log file folder, and its value is log file location, how would the dictionary would be having is the same as you see in the presentation. So you would similarly having a log file folder as a key, and the value will be C users slash UiPath. So anytime your program needs to come back and refer to your log file folder location, so it will go pick the C slash users slash UiPath location from the dictionary that is available. Okay, so how do you actually create a dictionary? So dictionary is nothing but, getting into the UiPath. So I'm creating a new process. Let me call it as dictionary using XML. So today I'm going to take the data from the XML and then add it to the dictionary, and then I will use the information from the dictionary and then go ahead and use it inside the program wherever I need to require. So for this, what am I going to do is I'm first going to create an XML source file. So I'm going into my project folder and I'm going to create a new file. So I'm just going to go and open the folder location. Sorry, I'm opening the file explorer. I'm going to go and mention and I'm going to go and open it as a notepad file. So I'm going to convert this notepad file into an XML file and give my information available. So I'm going to create a tag. So these, anything inside your angle brackets is going to be called as tags. And you have a parent tag and an ending tag. So basically you have a start tag and an ending tag. And similarly, there'll be a parent tag and the tags that come inside your, the parent tag. So config here will be the parent tag, and the tags that will come inside the parent tag will be called as the child tags, or in certain cases we call it as nodes. So here I'm going to create two tags called username and password. So let me create, the username as customer ABC. I'm giving a slash username. So all my tags are going to be case sensitive. So I'm making sure I follow the protocol of having it as case sensitive. And I'm going to give the password as xxxx0123. So this is my password, and I'm closing the tag of the password. So this is the credentials.txt file, which I would be converting into an XML file. I'm just going to go and say file save as .xml. It would go ahead and it would save the file as a .xml file. So this is the XML file and you see the XML file is actually created. So this is the XML file which I will be referring here. So here in this concept, basically when you're reading the the data source as your XML file, you would have your key as username. That is the key that is there as your tag. The key will be the username and the value will be customer ABC. Similarly, the next key will be password and the value will be XX123. So 0123. So if you have more number of values, for example, if you have say if you have log file location. So if you're going to have log file location, in those cases you will be having one more information called log file location. So you can still go ahead and open that particular file and say, I'm just going to go and open it and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to just go and open it and I'm going to say add a log file location. So I can still go ahead and open the log file location. So I can add multiple information that I need to be there. So in our case, it's just going to be a username and a password. So the initial thing what a dictionary will be doing is first it will read the information from your UiPath program, and you're going to have a dictionary as a concept. What you're going to do is you're going to read this particular information inside your UiPath. You're going to read this particular XML information, and then you're going to add it to the dictionary. And once it is added to the dictionary, from the dictionary you can use it inside your program. So whenever your your UiPath program or your UiPath process refers to the term username, it will be your program will come back to the dictionary, refer to the key called username, and it will take the value customer ABC. So this is the concept of dictionary. So let's see how. So I have my project repository having my credentials.xml. I don't understand where is the credentials.xml. Okay, so for me to actually start with the program, so let me first, understand every time you deal with data source files, what you do is you first need to pick the file and you need to read it. In order for me to read the XML file, I'm going to use the activity read text file. So when I use the activity read text file, I would just go and mention what is my XML file's name. So I would mention what is my XML file name, and whenever I'm reading a file, so what happens is there will be an output format that will be created. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an output format where my read text file is going to convert this XML file into a text variable or into a text type. So basically what I will do is I will create a variable. I'm using Control K, variable name. So this will be, I'm just going and saying text output. So when I say text output, the information gets created as a string variable. So what happens is the entire information that's there in your credentials.xml gets converted into a string output. So for me to show you what actually it does, so I'm going to drag a message box and I'm just going to, print this text output. So when I print this particular text output, what is going to happen is I would just see whatever was there in my XML document, the same thing will be printed here. So it's just converting the XML information to a string output or a text output. So after this, I'm just deleting this particular message box for now. I don't want. Now that we have converted they converted this into a text document. So what we will do is we are going to segregate the tags inside the XML document. So what we do is we have something called a deserialized XML. Deserialized XML is going to be, okay, so this particular XML tag, so in order for me to get, the XML activities, what I need to have is, so the first option when we don't have activities related to a particular thing, we have to go do a manage package, and from the manage packages, go select all packages, and you have to give your XML related activities information. So I'm going to say the related activities Microsoft.activities.extension. Sorry, UiPath.web.activities. So UiPath.web.activities is going to be the one which will be defaultly handling all the XML related files. I'm just going to go ahead, install, and I'm going to save it. So once I have it saved, I'm going to have all my XML related activities available at this particular section. Okay. Yeah. So now if I go and search for the XML related information, I would have all my XML related activities available. So here what am I going to do is I'm going to deserialize that particular text information that I have and convert it into an X document. So what is an X document? An X document is nothing but a format that is available for the XML document. So whatever you have in the text format, you're going to make it into a format where it can identify the tags. So how are we going to do it? I'm going to give the input as the text output, whatever we got from the previous, the read text file. From there, I'm going to convert it into an X document, which internally means XML document. So here, I'm just going to go and say, what is your output? So I'm going to say Control K. My X document is going to say X doc output. So if this is your output, it gets created as an X document as the variable type. So once you get this created, again, if I print the same thing, I'm going to print the X document here. It's going to just give me the same output that was there in the XML file. So this is your total file that you have, the XML file. So it is just copying, it has just converted the text format that you had into an XML format. So into an X document format. So once this is done, so I'm just removing this message box. So once this is done, what we are going to do is we are going to segregate the tags and identify the key and identify the value. So what am I going to do? For the username, I'm going to identify, segregate the tag, identify this as the key and this as the value. And for this password, I'm going to identify this as, segregate this first, identify this as the key and identify this as the value. So I'm going to repeat the same action again and again. So what am I going to repeat? I'm going to identify the key and I'm going to identify the value. So whenever I'm going to repeat the same action again and again, so I'm going to use a for each. So whenever I use a for each, say for example, you have two for eaches. So you have one as, you have one as for each under a data row and a data table, and another for each under control. So we are not dealing with data table here, so hence we will take the for each under the control. So for each is going to be, for each control is going to be a activity that will be used for all the rest of the information that you're going to loop through, except for the data table. Everything else that you will be looping through will come under the for each control. So what are you going to loop through? So basically you're going to loop through the XML document that you've received as an output from here. So what is that you're going to do is the XML document output that you have actually got. So you're going to loop through this particular information, pick the username, term it as a value, pick the customer ABC, pick the username, term it as a key, pick the pick the customer ABC and then term it as value. So similarly, you will do the same thing for password and put this as a key and put this as the value. So this we are going to loop it again and again inside the XML document. So how am I going to loop it? I'm going to say under which parent tag is the values that I need to loop. So I'm going to say under config parent tag. So what I will do is, first of all, when you're using a for each, you have to say for what you're going to loop through. Are you going to loop through an XML document, or are you going to loop through an array, or are you going to loop through any list or something, or any collection of objects that you're going to loop through? So for me to mention that I'm going to loop through an XML document, I have to go and change my type argument. So here in my type argument, I'm going to say I'm going to loop through. I'm going to make sure my program will be looping through a particular XML document. So for me to loop through an XML document, I am going to go and select. So I go for browse for types and I'm going to go and select system dot XML dot link dot X element. So what am I going to do is I'm going to loop through an XML document through each element. So what is my element here? My first element is username, my second element is password. So I'm going to loop through element by element and segregate the value as key and values. So this is what I'm going to loop through. So I'm going to say my type argument is going to be of the type XML dot system.xml.linQ.x element. So once I use this, I should be able to go and say, what am I going to loop through? I'm going to loop through x doc output dot, what is the information that I'm going to loop? I'm going to loop elements of under config tag. So I'm going to, inside the XML doc that is available, the output that is available, I'm going to take the elements of the particular parent tag config. So if I say config, it will straight away loop into username and password. So what am I going to do is, I'm just going to loop inside. So if I say what is going to be there in the item, so if I do a message box here, so it will give me, so I'm going to, I'm going to just select item here. So here if I say item.toString, it will give me the information as to what is the output. So what will be the expected output is whatever elements that is inside config will be displayed here. So I'm just going to run it and I'm going to see whatever element that is inside config will be displayed here. So for me to, in order to pick the username and password, I'm going to loop it again. So what I will do the same thing. I will use another for each control, and this time I'm going to say, let me put it as item 1 because we have item and with the same name it's going to be confusing. So let me say it as item 1. Now I'm going to say I'm going to loop through inside whatever is there inside the config, which is there in your item variable. So I'm going to say item dot elements. So when I loop through this way, so what is going to happen is, if I'm going to put a message box and display item 1.2 string, it will first loop through. Okay, so the first time I loop through, this is going to say the first information will be picked up. So username followed by customer ABC is picked up, and then I'm going to see password followed by 0123 is picked up. So what it has done is, and that's it, is the end of the loop. So what we have done is, first thing, we have identified what was the main element that we need to loop through. So inside your XML file, I'm going to pick all the elements it is along with the parent tag, that is a config parent tag. So once I pick all the information along with the parent tag, I'm going to go inside the parent tag and I'm going to understand what the elements are, so that I'm going to segregate the username and add its value under the dictionary. So what now I'm going to do is, now that I have got item 1 as the information that I need to collected from the XML file. Now what I'm going to do is, I can mention it as, I'm going to add this particular information to dictionary. So how do I add it to the dictionary? How do I add it to the dictionary is that I will create a variable called dictionary. So I'm coming back, I'm going to create a variable called dictionary. Okay, so I will create dictionary. Credentials is my dictionary. Let me see. And I'm going to create the type as dictionary. So you go for browse for more types. So if you search for dictionary, again, or better, I would search it like this: system.generic system.collections generic dot dictionary. So when I say dictionary, it's going to give you a value of dictionary T key and T value. So here when I select it, so let me get back to the file that we were actually talking about. So when I said, we are going to have a key and a value there, you need to identify what will be the variable type of a particular key that you're going to store inside, and what will be the variable of a particular value that you're going to store inside. Because the information that's going to be stored inside is either a number or a text value or a date value or something like that. So what we do is, we call this as particular T key and we call this as T value. So what are we going to do? We are just going to go and identify what will be the variable type of the values that I'm going to store inside the dictionary. So in order to do that, we can have different kinds of, the dictionary that you create will have different types of objects inside it. So you can have either a string and a string, where your key also will remain a string. For example, a key is apple and your meaning is, the value is, it is a fruit. So both will remain as string and string. And if you're going to have, numbers inside your particular thing, so you can go and say string comma integer, where your key will be your string of type string variable, and your value that you're going to have is of type integer variable, which indirectly means you would have all the values as in the format of numbers. So for example, if you're having a file to have counter variable, if you're having followed by, the maximum retry number, then you have several other counters, several other flags. You have a lot of numbers that you need to deal with. So you give the key value, that the key information as string, and you give the value as integer. So similarly, you can create a dictionary having these variable types. So the dictionary can have at any time either a string or a string integer, integer string, string boolean, or a string object. Object in the sense you can replace it to anything else, either an integer, string, or a boolean, etc. Basically, once you select your particular dictionary, so what happens is, you would need to select the variable type that is going to be stored inside the dictionary. So in my case, if I'm just going to store the log file location, or for example, in my case, I've just stored the username and the password values. So for my username, I've just given it as a string, and my password also is going to be the values that I'm going to use under the username also is a string variable. So I'm just using string comma string, and I'm going to say I'm selecting it. So once I use that particular information, my dictionary credentials gets created with a variable type dictionary or string of string. Okay. So whenever I use a dictionary, I need to definitely initialize the dictionary by saying new dictionary of whatever type you have given. So this is a mandatory step when you're using dictionary concept. So we'll have to ensure that this particular information is shared in your default, or this particular information is available or written in your default, the expression that you need to write. So what we will do is new space dictionary of whatever I have given, string comma string. So it will be string comma string, so that I will be able to use my dictionary in a format that UiPath actually recognizes. Now I know I've picked the information, I've read the, so from the beginning, whatever we have done is we have read the text file, we have read the XML file, converted into a text format, and from there we have, we have deserialized the text format and converted into an XML document format. I'm going to loop through the XML document by using a for each control, and the control is going to be in the type argument XML link system.xml.linku.x element, because we are going to loop through the X elements. We are going to loop through the XML elements only. So here I'm going to say X document dot elements of config. So which means config, username and password will be displayed, but I don't want the config term there. What I need to do in order for me to understand that I need to get into only username and password, I'm going to loop through it again so that I omit config and I take only username and password. So here in my message box, I've looped it again and again. So my first loop will be for along with config, and my second loop will only be username and password. So separately as tags. So now what am I going to do is I'm just going to remove this particular thing and I'm going to add it to my dictionary. So now that I have created a dictionary variable, a dictionary that is available, a dictionary variable, now I'll go ahead and use it. So for me to use the dictionary, I will just go and say dictionary activities. So since my dictionary activities are not going to be available, I will go ahead and manage the packages. The package will be all package Microsoft.activities.extension. So this will be this will be displaying all the information that is needed for the dictionary concept to work. So I'm just going to go ahead installing that particular package. And once it is installed, if I go ahead and search for dictionary, I would see all my dictionary information activities that is available. Now in this step, I'm basically going to do add it to a dictionary. So I'm going to pick username and I'm going to add username as the key and customer ABC as the value. So what am I going to do is I'm going to add it to dictionary. So what I'm going to add, I need to again select the information that I have given. So I have given the dictionary as string comma string. So I need to select string comma string in the information. So once that is done, add to dictionary is added here. So now I'm going to say in my variable panel, I'm going to identify what is the dictionary that I'm going to add. So dictionary credentials is my dictionary name I'm going to add. So what am I going to add here? So when I'm going to add part of the username, right? So I'm going to add username and customer ABC as the value. So I need to say item 1 dot name is the username and item 1 dot value is the customer ABC. So what I will say is item 1 dot okay, why it is not getting displayed here? Because in this we did not change the type argument. So you have to go back and change the type argument as system dot xml dot linku dot x element. Because in both your for each, you're going to look through the XML element only. So only when your element comes in, you can give the element name. So here I'm going to say item 1 dot the name dot toString if you need. And here item 1 dot value. If you need a dot toString there, you can add toString. So what is this internally going to do is, So when it comes to the first working, so let's go ahead and say, for us to understand it more clearly, let me just go and add a message box. In the first message box, I'm just going to add item1.toString. So the entire item1 will be displayed first, and then I have item1 dot name dot toString, where I'm going to display just the key, username and password. So this is going to be the key. So I'm just going to say key equals a space and a concatenation, and then I'm going to put another message box to display the value. So what I'm going to say is value equals a space and a concatenation followed by item1 dot value dot to string. Sorry, it's a string. And once that is done, I'm just going to go and message say added to dictionary. Added to dictionary. So I'm just going to execute this particular information. So let me first read the file, then it creates a text output, and then the text output I'm going to deserialize, create a text, the XML document, and then I'm going to loop through every information inside the XML document and segregate the key and the value. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to run the entire program so that it has gone inside the second loop. The first loop being you're going to pick the entire config information, and the second loop will be getting into the config tag. So the first information is username. Now it is going to segregate item1 dot name. So the item1 dot name, the key is username, so it has segregated. The value is going to be customer ABC, and now it's going to add this inside the dictionary. So it is added to dictionary. It's going on to the next row, so it picks the entire item1. From this it will segregate what is item1 dot key is the password, and item1 dot value is going to be the value that you actually create. Now that you have successfully added to the dictionary, the program gets completed. So this is how you will be adding to the dictionary. Now for you to identify, you have a couple of other information that you can work on the dictionary activities. So similarly, if you're going to, now that we saw add to dictionary, how would you get, you would retrieve the information that's available from the dictionary. So what I would do is I would just, come out of my for each. So now that I've added everything, so for each I'm just saying add to, I'm just going to say add items to dictionary. So this is my, this is my for each loop that I've used. So I'm going to, once the information has been added to the dictionary, I'm going to fetch the information that's available. So what I'm going to do is, for me to fetch the information that is available, I'll say get from dictionary. Get from dictionary, again, you have to select whatever information that you have given in your dictionary variable. So I'm going to go and say string comma string. And here I go, I can go and say what was the dictionary name. So now I can give the dictionary name. So what is the key that you need to fetch? Do you need to fetch the username, or do you need to see? You need to fetch the password. So this is the actual key that will be, visible in your dictionary. So I'm going to say I'm going to fetch username. To say user, did I put a capital N? Yes. So let me put username. So when I say I'm going to fetch username, now I need to give this as an output value. So for me to create, so I'll create a new variable called maybe a text information. Okay, so I'll say str username. So whatever was the key username, the value will come and sit on this particular variable. So str username will have the username value that is actually stored inside your dictionary. So now if I go and say message box, the str username, it will actually display the value that was created for the username. So I can just go ahead and I'll say run. So it's going to go inside the for each. So it's adding the information. So once the information is added, now you're going to just go ahead and find. Okay, I think I just went through a little fast. So let me do it again. This is inside the for each. So now it has added all the values inside. So it's coming out of the for each. It's doing the get from dictionary, and whatever was the value that we have given, the key was the username that we keyed in. So whatever is the value under the username gets stored inside str username value variable and gets displayed here. So this is the concept of dictionary. So you can get it from the dictionary, or you can the clear dictionary basically will be used to clear the entire contents of the dictionary, while the structure is going to remain the same, while they will not have the data inside it, but the dictionary will be available. And get from dictionary, we know it is going to get key exists in dictionary. You're just going to check whether that particular key is available inside the dictionary or not. For example, if you want to check whether username is stored inside your dictionary, then you can say key exists inside dictionary, and you can say, so this would be the dictionary name. So what is the key that you're going to check? Username, sorry, capital N, and you're going to check whether it exists or not. So basically you're going to say, let me say flag username. It gets created as a boolean, and I'm going to say, message box flag username dot toString. So it's going to just say whether the key exists or not. I'm going to run it again. This is inside the loop. So now it has added all the values to dictionary. It's getting the username from dictionary, the customer ABC, and we are going to see whether the key exists, the username key exists inside the dictionary. If it exists, it's going to say, yes, it exists, so it is true. So similarly to this, key exists in dictionary, you can also do remove from dictionary. Remove from dictionary again will be the same thing. You have to select the particular variable types that you have given inside the dictionary, the dictionary name, followed by whichever key that you're going to remove. Say username if you're going to remove, and you can give the result as the result. It will get created as a boolean, and once you delete it, it will say, okay, the particular key username was deleted, so it went as true. So similar to that, you're going to see whether the value exists. So you have checked whether the username exists. Similarly, you can see whether the value exists. So for example, you can check if customer ABC exists inside your dictionary. So when you need to see value exists inside the dictionary, you just go ahead and say the dictionary name again, the variables, the dictionary name, and then you say what was the value. The value was customer ABC. If you say, and if you enter, whether it will again be a flag value, and it's going to give you a boolean as to say whether this customer ABC was there as a part of the value of anything inside the dictionary. So this is how you will be actually doing your dictionary, where you're going to read from any particular file, say XML file or a Excel file or any particular config file. So you're going to read that particular information, and you're going to add it to the dictionary using a for loop. And once you add it to the dictionary, you're going to get it back from the dictionary, or you can do other information, whatever you need to do. So you can either see whether the particular key exists in the dictionary, or you can, and then you can use a browser or wherever you need to take this information, the username and the password information, you can take it henceforth from there. So this is the concept. So here, when you're, today we saw about reading an XML file. But whenever you're going to deal with Excel file, what would you do is you would just you replace this read text file using a read range. So once you put a read range there, it's going to convert it into a data table. And instead of using a for each control, you would be using for each data table. So basically, you would just enter that particular for each data table, and you would just go inside and add it to dictionary. So this particular concept will change whenever, as with your the data source file changes. So according to this, so this is how you will be handling your dictionary. Add information to dictionary and fetch the information back from the dictionary, and then you can use it inside the program whenever the program requires that particular information or that particular key or the value.